Alright, so this is part one of my do-it-yourself homemade deadlifting platform. This platform I got the idea and plans off of making from Alan Thrall, his website. He's got a really good in-depth tutorial on how he went about making this in specific steps. Again, this is designed for conventional deadlift pulling with a 7-foot bar. A hex bar, which is shorter, would not work on this. It would basically be landing, the weights would be landing on the wood portion. It's a shorter bar, and I will show that later. Okay, the first step was to use plywood, 3/4 inch, and we're going to use 2 of them for the base. So 2 3/4 inch plywood. To apply those 2 pieces of plywood, I did something slightly different than Alan Thrall. He used wood glue. I used something a little better, I think, which is construction adhesive. But just use a thin bead, and once you apply the wood on top of each other, I used 1 1/4 inch wood screws. Okay, so after I put on the 2 sheets of plywood together, I put on a 4x4 section of birch pre-finished plywood that I got cut at the store in half, and applied that down with the construction adhesive, and then went about 2 inches in from the edge for my first set of screws, and then the center from the next set and 2 inches on the other end. And then on the ends I used 3/4 inch rubber, vulcanized rubber. Okay, now for the rubber vulcanized, even though it's vulcanized, it will smell. So what we found was using less oil. Okay, that stuff was the bomb. Basically for the first cleaning of the mats, a good 50-50% solution, and that really helps to brighten up the mats. Like, that stuff brings out the blackness of the rubber, but it also cleans it very well, and it helps to eliminate the smell much quicker. The other thing I got from Alan Thrall's video was when you do screw this in, okay, now this top layer I went with 1.5 inch screws because now we have more thickness on the bottom. Alright, so same with the black mats and the 4x4 piece in the center, 1.5 inch wood screws. And the stuff that's on the rubber, we used washers when we sank the screws in, or else they'd punch right through the rubber. Okay, after sitting overnight for a good 24 hours, let the adhesive bond, I go on to the next part, which is setting up the stake hooks. Those are the 4 things you see here in each corner, and those are to put bands connected to them. Used my Elite FTS bands. They're about 42 inches. I stumbled across these stake hooks at Home Hardware. There are left and right versions of them, so as you're looking here, we have a left and a right on each side. My plan is to basically lift this platform up onto 2x4s so I can drill through, and I'm going to use 3-inch bolts to come up from the bottom that are going to be slightly countersunk into the plywood. Okay, so what I want to do first is basically get a 2x4 underneath this whole platform, so when I drill down, I'm not drilling into my rubber on the floor. Okay, so now what I want to do is temporarily mount these guys, so when I drill the holes through, nothing moves on me and I got everything perfect. So my line that I initially put the screws in is 2 1/4 inches in. So I'm going to line up this guy here on the center of that hole. Make sure it's flush to the back by placing the 2x4 there, or level, whatever you want to use. So that at least keeps it good. Drill 2 of the holes out of the 3. Alright, next we're drilling our holes for the bolts to go through. So I'm just using the 2x6, make sure I got this guy pressed up against it so it's exactly where I want it. You know, you got to go about 2.5 inches down with all the plywood, so I just marked it. I got a general idea where it is on the drill bit for depth. You could put a piece of tape around there, it's probably your best bet, and that'll be an indicator for how deep to go with your drill. You'll make sure this is your third hole is on again, so you already have 2 holes. So just to keep this guy exactly where you want it, you can just sink these in temporarily. Remove your holding screw and use your 2x6. There you go. You got 3 good holes now. Alright, so after vacuuming out all the sawdust up top, cleaning up the holes, next thing was to lift this, and actually it wasn't that bad. I just left it on the uprights I'd already lifted onto, the 2x4s. Used a handy dandy crowbar to get it up a bit, and then lifted it basically the rest of the way. And I'm just leaning it against one of my pieces of equipment here. Put a bunch of extra weight on it. You know, I'm just going the extra step on the holes to put a little countersink in here, so the bolt head is going to recess into the wood and it'll be flush. Right? You could, you know, skip that, whatever. That's up to you. Okay, now we want to countersink so the bolt can fit in. 9/16 head on this bolt, and it's a 3/8 inch bolt. Just remember, you want the hole big enough so a washer can go in. I wanted to use washers with this, and also your ratchet head or whatever you're going to use will be able to fit into the hole to grab onto this bolt so you can tighten it up. So again, I'm using this washer is about 1 inch, so I went a little over 1 inch for the drill bit. Normally most drills have 2 settings, low speed, high speed. Use the low speed because these things will catch, bite in, and drill very quickly. So low speed. Alright, so we got all our bolts in. Everything's nice and flush on the bottom here. All 4 attachment points. I'm going to leave the 2x4s on the floor for now. Lower it back down onto those. I'm not squishing the fingertips, and then go around and take that all out. Put it back down on the floor. Just to show you, it's not overly heavy. So. And if you're building something to deadlift on, should be a motherfucking piece of cake to do that. Alright, so here we got it set up now, the final product. Already there's a bit of tension on it with that distance, so it's actually did a couple of reps just to get a feel for it. And everything is feeling solid. The attachment points are feeling solid. And finally, here's a quick conversion for using a hex bar. This is just a standard hex bar, and again I just used the leftover mat. You can use your leftover from your top portion, your 4x4 piece, get it cut into a certain dimension, and use that for your middle so it's all the same height. And again, the bands still will work on the attachments points with this hex bar. Best thing about this platform, made in motherfucking Canada.